Sarah Miller stands outside a bustling mall restroom, waiting for her 7-year-old daughter, Lily. A few minutes turn into 10, then 20. The initial annoyance turns to ice-cold fear as she calls her daughter's name, with no response. When she finally pushes her way inside, she finds the restroom empty. Her daughter had vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by the crowd, sparking an 8-year nightmare that would only find its horrifying conclusion on the other side of the world. It was supposed to be a perfect Saturday afternoon. Sarah and Lily Miller had been planning this shopping trip for weeks. Lily was just days away from turning 8 and could hardly wait to pick out her special birthday dress. The bond between Sarah and her daughter was something everyone noticed. They weren't just mother and daughter. They were best friends who shared everything from bedtime stories to secret handshakes that only they understood. The Northwood Galleria Mall was packed that day, filled with families enjoying their weekend. Sarah held Lily's hand tightly as they navigated through the crowds, stopping at store windows to admire sparkly dresses and colorful toys. Lily's eyes lit up at every display, her excitement contagious as she pointed out everything that caught her attention. They had already picked out a beautiful purple dress with silver stars on it, Lily's favorite colors, and were heading to look at shoes when Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, I need to use the bathroom," Lily said, doing that little dance children do when they really need to go. Sarah looked around and spotted the restroom sign just ahead. It was a single-entrance bathroom near the food court, always busy but well-lit and supposedly safe. She had used it many times before without a second thought. "Okay, sweetie, but be quick," Sarah said, walking Lily to the entrance. "I'll wait right here for you." She watched as Lily skipped inside, her purple backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Sarah positioned herself directly in front of the door, unaware that a hidden service corridor connected to the back of the stalls. The mall continued its usual chaos around her. The smell of pizza and Chinese food wafted from the nearby food court. A group of teenagers laughed loudly as they passed. A baby cried somewhere in the distance. Sarah checked her watch. 2 minutes passed, then 5. She wasn't worried yet. Sometimes the bathrooms were crowded and kids could take their time. At the 10-minute mark, Sarah started to feel uneasy. She called out, "Lily, honey, are you okay in there?" A woman exiting the bathroom gave her a strange look but said nothing. Sarah's heart began to beat a little faster. At 15 minutes, she couldn't wait anymore. She pushed through the door and called louder, "Lily, where are you, baby?" The bathroom was surprisingly empty for such a busy day. Sarah's voice echoed off the tiled walls as she frantically checked each stall, pushing open a door after door. All empty, the last stall door was locked. "Lily," Sarah's voice cracked as she got on her hands and knees to look under the door. Empty. It was locked from the inside, but nobody was there. The abductor had latched it shut and slipped away through the service corridor. Panic exploded through Sarah's chest like a bomb. She ran back out, scanning the crowd wildly. "Lily!" she screamed, not caring who stared. "Has anyone seen a little girl?" Purple backpack, brown hair and pigtails. People shook their heads, some backing away from the obviously distressed woman. Sarah grabbed a mall security guard who was stationed nearby. "My daughter," she gasped, barely able to form words through her terror. "She went into that bathroom and now she's gone. She's only 7 years old." The guard's expression immediately turned serious, and he radioed for backup and a mall lockdown. Security scrambled to lock down the mall, but by the time guards blocked the exits, the abductor had already vanished through the service corridor. The announcement system crackled to life, describing Lily and asking anyone with information to come forward immediately. Police arrived within 10 minutes, though it felt like hours to Sarah. She gave them Lily's description over and over. Brown hair, hazel eyes, about 4 feet tall, wearing jeans and a pink t-shirt with a unicorn on it, carrying that purple backpack she loved so much. The police reviewed security footage immediately. The cameras showed Lily entering the bathroom at 2:47 p.m. Sarah was visible waiting outside, but there was a blind spot. The camera angle didn't cover the back portion of the bathroom area where a service corridor connected. The bathroom had a second exit that led to this corridor, something most shoppers never knew about. It was supposed to be locked, used only by maintenance staff. Witnesses were interviewed throughout the day and into the night. A few people remembered seeing a woman near the bathroom around that time, described as middle-aged, wearing dark clothing and sunglasses. One witness, a teenager who had been sitting in the food court, said she saw this woman carrying what looked like a sleeping child wrapped in a jacket toward the service area. But the purple backpack Lily wore was never seen again, but she hadn't thought much of it at the time, assuming it was just a tired kid being carried by their parent. The police created a sketch based on witness descriptions, but it was generic, could have been anyone. The woman had been careful to keep her face turned away from cameras, as if she knew exactly where they were positioned. This wasn't random. This was planned. Sarah's husband Mark arrived at the mall within an hour of getting her call. He found his wife in the security office, surrounded by police officers, her face pale and streaked with tears. They clung to each other as the reality of the situation sank in. Their baby girl was gone. Someone had taken her. The first 48 hours were crucial, the police said. They issued an Amber Alert immediately. Lily's picture appeared on every news channel, website, and social media platform. The story went national within days. The image of the pretty little girl with the bright smile and missing front tooth was everywhere. Tips poured in by the hundreds, but none led anywhere concrete. Sarah and Mark did interview after interview, pleading for their daughter's safe return. "Please," Sarah begged on camera, her eyes red and swollen. "If you have her, just bring her back. Leave her somewhere safe. We won't ask questions. We just want our baby back." Mark stood beside her, his jaw clenched, fighting to maintain composure for his wife's sake. But days turned into weeks. The massive search effort gradually scaled back. The news cameras moved on to other stories. The police said they would keep investigating, but Sarah could see the truth in their eyes. They had no real leads. The trail had gone cold. Sarah quit her job as a marketing manager to dedicate every moment to finding Lily. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think about anything else. She printed thousands of flyers and hung them everywhere she could. She started a Facebook page that gained hundreds of thousands of followers. She founded the Lily Miller Foundation for Missing Children, working with other families who understood her pain. She followed every possible lead, no matter how unlikely. A girl who looked like Lily spotted in Texas. Sarah drove 14 hours to check. A psychic claimed to have visions of Lily near water. Sarah searched every lake and river within 500 miles. Every time her phone rang, her heart would stop, hoping it was news about Lily, fearing it was news about Lily. The strain destroyed her marriage. Mark wanted to try to move forward, not forget Lily, but find a way to live with the pain. Sarah couldn't. She accused him of giving up, of not loving their daughter enough. He accused her of refusing to accept reality, of destroying herself and everyone around her with her obsession. The fights were terrible, both of them broken and lashing out at the only person who truly understood their loss. They divorced 3 years after Lily disappeared. Mark moved to another state, unable to bear the constant reminders. Sarah stayed in their house, keeping Lily's room exactly as it had been. The unicorn sheet still on the bed, the half-finished puzzle on her desk, the birthday dress they never got to give her hanging in the closet. 5 years passed, then 6, then 7. Sarah aged 20 years in that time. Her brown hair turned gray. Lines etched themselves deep into her face. She survived on coffee and determination, nothing more. Friends tried to help, but she pushed them away. How could they understand? How could anyone understand what it was like to have your child simply vanish? The police called occasionally with updates that weren't really updates. They were still investigating. The case was still open. They hadn't given up. But Sarah knew they had moved on to cases with actual leads, cases that could be solved. Lily's file gathered dust on a shelf somewhere. Just another cold case among thousands. 8 years after Lily disappeared, Sarah was a shell of her former self. She was broke from spending all her money on private investigators and search efforts. She was exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. She was alone, having pushed away everyone who tried to help her. The searching had become her entire identity. Without it, who was she? That's when Clara entered her life. Clara was Sarah's best friend from college, one of the few people who had refused to be pushed away completely. She would still call every week, even when Sarah didn't answer. She would still send cards on holidays and Lily's birthday. She never gave up on Sarah, even when Sarah had given up on herself. Clara ran a non-profit organization that built schools in developing countries. She had just returned from a project in Kenya and was preparing for her next trip to Tanzania. She showed up at Sarah's door one day with coffee and determination of her own. "You need to come with me," Clara said simply. Sarah immediately shook her head. "I can't leave. What if there's news about Lily? What if she comes home and I'm not here?" Clara took Sarah's hands, noticing how thin they had become, how they trembled slightly. "Sarah, honey, you need this. You need to remember there's still good in the world. You need to be around children again, to remember joy. It's only 3 weeks. Your phone will work there. If anything happens, you can be on a plane within hours." Sarah wanted to refuse. The guilt of even considering it was overwhelming. How could she leave? How could she stop searching even for a moment? But she was so tired, so incredibly, soul-crushingly tired. And maybe, just maybe, helping other children would ease the constant ache in her chest, even if only slightly. "I don't know if I can be around kids," Sarah admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "Every time I see a little girl, I see Lily." "I know," Clara said gently, "but these children need help. And maybe helping them will help you too. Not to forget Lily, never that, but to find a reason to keep going. She would want you to help other children. You know she would." Sarah thought about her daughter, how kind she had been, how she would share her lunch with kids who forgot theirs, how she would include everyone in her games at recess. Clara was right. Lily would want her to help. So Sarah agreed, though the guilt felt like it would swallow her whole. She packed a small bag, including the photo of Lily she carried everywhere, the one from her 7th birthday party, chocolate cake smeared on her laughing face. She locked up the house, leaving Lily's room untouched, a shrine to a girl who should have been 15 now, thinking about high school, and boys, and learning to drive. The flight to Tanzania was long, giving Sarah too much time to think. She stared out the window at the clouds and wondered if Lily was somewhere under them. Was she alive? Was she safe? Did she remember her mother? The questions tortured her as they had every day for 8 years. When they landed in Dar es Salaam, the heat hit Sarah like a wall. The air was thick and humid, so different from home. Clara led her through the chaos of the airport to a waiting van that would take them to the village where they would be working. The drive was long and bumpy, the roads getting worse the further they went from the city. The village was small and remote, a collection of mud brick houses with thatched roofs scattered across dusty red earth. Children ran barefoot through the streets, their laughter echoing despite their obvious poverty. Sarah's heart clenched watching them, but she forced herself to smile and wave back when they greeted the newcomers with enthusiasm. The school they were building was basic but important. It would give these children a chance at education, at a future beyond subsistence farming. Sarah threw herself into the work, mixing cement, laying bricks, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind occupied. The physical labor was exhausting, but it was a good exhaustion, different from the bone-deep weariness she had been carrying for years. The local children were curious about the visitors, especially Sarah. They seemed to sense her sadness and would bring her small gifts: a pretty stone, a flower, a drawing made with charcoal on scrap paper. She accepted them all with genuine gratitude, carefully saving each one. 3 days into the trip, Sarah was starting to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Not quite peace, but something close to it. The simple rhythm of work, the kindness of the villagers, the absence of constant reminders of her loss. It was helping in a way she hadn't expected. That afternoon, she and Clara walked to the local market to buy supplies. It was a colorful chaos of vendors selling everything from vegetables to fabric to live chickens. The air was thick with the smell of spices and dust. Sarah was examining some bananas when she heard music in the distance, drums and singing growing louder. A procession was moving through the market. Sarah stood on her toes to see better. It was a wedding ceremony, she realized. The villagers were dressed in their finest clothes, bright fabrics and elaborate jewelry. At the center of the procession was the bride and groom. The groom was an older man, perhaps in his 50s, with a hard face and cold eyes. He walked with the authority of someone important, someone feared. The bride beside him looked impossibly young. She couldn't have been more than 15 or 16, Sarah thought with disgust. The girl was dressed in traditional wedding attire, beautiful fabrics and beads, but her face told a different story. She looked terrified. As the procession moved closer, Sarah found herself staring at the young bride. There was something familiar about her, something that made Sarah's heart begin to race, though she didn't know why. The girl's eyes were downcast, her shoulders hunched as if trying to make herself smaller. When she briefly looked up, Sarah saw they were hazel, an unusual color for this region. Then Sarah saw it. As the girl was pulled past, her sleeve shifted, revealing her wrist. There, clear as day, was a crescent-shaped birthmark. Sarah's world tilted. The air left her lungs. That birthmark. She would know it anywhere. She had kissed it 1,000 times when Lily was a baby. It was distinctive, unique, like a tiny moon on her daughter's wrist. "Lily!" The name tore from Sarah's throat in a scream that made everyone in the market turn. The girl's head snapped up, and for just a moment their eyes met. Sarah saw a flicker of something, confusion, recognition, fear, before the girl was pulled away by the groom's firm hand. Sarah tried to push through the crowd to reach her daughter, her Lily, alive, here, but wrong, all wrong. "That's my daughter," she screamed in English. "Stop! That's my daughter, Lily!" The crowd became hostile quickly. These foreigners were disrupting a sacred ceremony. The groom, who Sarah would later learn was a powerful village elder named Rashid, barked orders in Swahili. Men stepped forward to block Sarah's path. She fought against them, clawing and screaming, but they were too strong. Clara was beside her, trying to pull her back while also trying to understand what was happening. "Sarah, what's wrong? Talk to me!" "It's Lily," Sarah sobbed, still fighting to get through. "That girl is Lily. I saw her birthmark. It's her." The procession was moving away quickly now, the groom hurrying his bride from the scene. Sarah caught one last glimpse of the girl looking back, her face a mask of confusion and fear, before she disappeared into the crowd. A young man who had been watching stepped forward. He spoke English with a heavy accent. "I am Joseph. I translate for visitors. What is happening? Why do you say this?" Sarah grabbed his arms, desperate. "That girl, the bride, she's my daughter. She was kidnapped 8 years ago from America. Please, you have to help me stop this." Joseph's face went pale. He knew challenging Rashid was dangerous. The man essentially ruled this area through fear and influence. But he could see the raw truth in Sarah's eyes, the desperate agony of a mother. "We must be careful," Joseph whispered. "Rashid is powerful. If we act wrong, the girl will disappear forever. We need authorities." Clara had her phone out, already calling the U.S. Embassy. The connection was poor, but she managed to explain the situation. They promised to contact local law enforcement immediately, but warned it could take hours for anyone to arrive in such a remote location. Hours they didn't have. The wedding ceremony would be completed by then. Sarah couldn't wait. She couldn't lose Lily again, not when she had just found her. "Where did they take her?" Sarah demanded of Joseph. "Rashid's compound is outside the village," Joseph said reluctantly. "But it is guarded. You cannot just walk in." "Then we need the police now," Sarah said. She turned to Clara. "What did the embassy say?" "They're sending people. But Sarah, we need to be smart about this. If we spook him, he might run with her." The next 3 hours were the longest of Sarah's life, even longer than those first horrible hours when Lily had disappeared. She paced frantically, unable to sit still, while Clara stayed on the phone with the embassy, providing updates and pushing for faster action. Joseph, despite his fear, stayed with them. He made careful inquiries in the village, learning what he could without raising suspicion. What he discovered made Sarah sick. The girl had been living with Rashid for several years. She was known as Asha. She spoke only Swahili now, and some Arabic. She had no memory of her life before coming to the village, or at least that's what people believed. "They say Rashid bought her from traders when she was young," Joseph explained quietly. "Paid very much money. He was waiting for her to be old enough to marry." Sarah wanted to vomit. Her baby girl, sold like property, raised by the man who bought her, forced into marriage at 15. The rage she felt was beyond anything she had ever experienced. Finally, as the sun was beginning to set, vehicles appeared on the horizon. 2 police trucks and a car bearing embassy flags. A woman in a suit emerged from the car, introducing herself as Embassy Officer Patricia Wells. "Mrs. Miller, I need you to tell me everything," Patricia said urgently. "We need to move fast, but we need to be certain." Sarah explained about the birthmark, showing Patricia photos of Lily from when she was young, clear images of the distinctive mark. She gave her Lily's DNA information, which she always carried with her, hoping against hope it would be needed someday. Patricia nodded grimly. "We're going to Rashid's compound now. You'll need to come to identify her, but you must let us handle this. These situations can turn violent quickly." The drive to the compound was tense. Sarah sat between Clara and Patricia, her entire body shaking. What if she was wrong? What if it wasn't Lily? But she knew that birthmark. She knew her daughter. Rashid's compound was a collection of buildings surrounded by a high wall. Guards stood at the gate, but they stepped aside when they saw the police vehicles. Rashid himself emerged from the main house, his face angry but controlled. A heated discussion in Swahili followed between Rashid and the police captain. Patricia translated for Sarah. He's claiming this is harassment, that the girl is his legal wife, that she's an orphan he saved from poverty. She's not an orphan, Sarah shouted. She's my daughter. The confrontation escalated. Rashid refused to produce the girl, claiming she was ill from the stress of the disrupted ceremony. But Patricia had brought official documents, including photos of Lily and the missing person report. The police captain's expression grew harder as he reviewed them. Finally, he gave an order. His men pushed past Rashid into the compound. Sarah heard shouting from inside, then a girl's scream that tore through her like a knife. Minutes later, the police emerged with the bride. Up close, Sarah could see her clearly for the first time. The girl was taller, thinner. Her face had lost its baby roundness, but it was Lily. Those were her eyes, her nose, the way she tilted her head when confused. And there, clearly visible now, was the birthmark. "Lily," Sarah whispered, stepping forward slowly, not wanting to scare her. "Baby, it's Mom." The girl, Asha, Lily, looked at her with no recognition, only fear. She spoke rapidly in Swahili, pulling away when Sarah tried to touch her. The rejection was agony, but Sarah understood. 8 years. Her daughter had been gone 8 years. She had been a child when taken, moldable, forgettable. "She says she doesn't know you," Joseph translated gently. "She says her name is Asha. She has always lived here." But Patricia was prepared. She had a DNA test kit, one that could give quick, preliminary results. With the police captain's permission, they swabbed the girl's cheek, then Sarah's. The wait for the results was excruciating, though everyone knew what they would show. When the positive match came through, the police captain placed Rashid under arrest. The man protested loudly, insisting he had done nothing wrong, that she was his legal wife, that he had saved her from poverty. But his own admission of buying her sealed his fate. The investigation that followed revealed the horrifying truth. Lily had been abducted by a woman named Margaret Downs, part of an international child trafficking ring. She had drugged Lily in the mall bathroom and carried her out through the service corridor, where a van was waiting. Lily was smuggled out of the country within days, eventually sold to buyers in East Africa who specialized in providing young girls to wealthy men. Rashid had paid the equivalent of $50,000 for Lily when she was 8 years old. He had kept her isolated, told her she was an orphan he had saved, gradually erasing her memories of her former life through a combination of manipulation and trauma. He had been grooming her for years, waiting until she was old enough by local standards to marry. Margaret Downs was eventually arrested trying to abduct another child. She confessed to taking Lily and dozens of other children over the years as part of the trafficking ring. Many of the children were never found. The reunion between Sarah and Lily was not the joyful moment Sarah had imagined for 8 years. Lily, or Asha as she now thought of herself, was deeply traumatized. She spoke no English. She had been told her entire previous life was a dream, that her memories of a mother who loved her were fantasies. She was terrified of leaving the only life she now remembered. The U.S. Embassy arranged for temporary housing in Dar es Salaam while the paperwork was processed to bring Lily home. Sarah stayed with her daughter every day, even though Lily wouldn't speak to her, wouldn't look at her. Sarah would just sit nearby, sometimes humming the lullabies she used to sing, sometimes looking through photo albums she had brought, hoping something would trigger a memory. Clara extended her stay to help, serving as a bridge between mother and daughter. She would sit with Lily, teaching her simple English words, showing her pictures of America, trying to make the idea of leaving less frightening. It was Joseph who made the breakthrough. He spent hours with Lily, translating Sarah's words, her stories about Lily's childhood. He told her about birthdays and Christmases, about a father who loved her, about a purple backpack and unicorn shirts. Slowly, fragments began to surface. Lily remembered a song, just a few notes. She remembered the taste of chocolate cake. She remembered being called Princess. The day Lily first called her mom again, Sarah broke down completely. It was tentative, uncertain, more a question than a statement, but it was everything. The wall between them began to crumble, brick by brick. The journey home was difficult. Lily was terrified of the airplane, of the crowds at the airport, of all the English being spoken around her. She clung to Sarah's hand so tightly it hurt, but Sarah didn't mind. She would endure any pain to have her daughter back. Mark flew to meet them when they landed in the United States. The reunion between father and daughter was emotional, but complicated. Lily didn't remember him at all. To her, he was a stranger who cried when he saw her. It would take time, so much time, to rebuild what had been stolen from them. The media frenzy was overwhelming. The story of the girl who was found after 8 years, discovered by chance at her own forced wedding, captivated the world. Sarah tried to shield Lily from it all, but it was impossible to escape entirely. They had to move to a new house, one without memories, where they could start fresh. Therapy was constant and crucial. Lily had to relearn English while also processing the trauma of her abduction and years of captivity. She had nightmares constantly, sometimes forgetting where she was, calling out for people from her life in Tanzania. She had been told so many lies for so long that distinguishing truth from fiction was a daily struggle. But slowly, painfully, progress was made. Lily began to remember more of her early childhood. The memories were fragmented and dreamlike, but they were real. She remembered her 7th birthday party, the mall trip, even fragments of the abduction itself, though the therapists were careful not to push too hard on those traumatic memories. Sarah had to learn to parent a teenager who was also still, in many ways, the 7-year-old who had been taken. Lily had missed so much: elementary school, middle school, normal childhood development. She was 15 in body but fractured in mind, part child, part adult, part something else entirely, shaped by her years in captivity. The legal proceedings were extensive. Rashid was prosecuted in Tanzania and received a 20-year sentence for human trafficking and child abuse. Margaret Downs and other members of the trafficking ring were prosecuted in the United States, receiving life sentences for their crimes. The investigation led to the rescue of 12 other children who had been trafficked by the same ring. Sarah testified at every trial, determined to see justice done not just for Lily, but for all the children whose lives had been destroyed. She became an advocate for missing children and victims of trafficking, using her platform to raise awareness and push for stronger international cooperation in fighting these crimes. The Lily Miller Foundation, which Sarah had started during the search, evolved into a major organization dedicated to preventing child trafficking and supporting survivors. Lily herself, as she grew stronger, became involved, wanting to help other children who had experienced similar trauma. Mark and Sarah didn't remarry. Too much had changed, but they co-parented successfully, united in their dedication to helping Lily heal. They attended every therapy session together, presented a unified front, and slowly rebuilt their family in a new configuration. 5 years after her rescue, Lily graduated from high school. It was a milestone that once seemed impossible. She stood at the podium to give a speech to her class, her English now perfect, though still occasionally accented with Swahili inflections. She spoke about resilience, about the power of never giving up hope, about the love that can transcend time and distance and even memory itself. "I was lost," she said, looking directly at her mother in the audience. "But I was also found. Not just physically found, but truly found. Found by a love that never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, never stopped believing I would come home. That's the power we all have, to never give up on each other, to keep searching for those who are lost, to believe in the possibility of miracles, even when the world tells us to stop believing." Sarah wiped tears from her eyes as the audience erupted in applause. Her daughter, her Lily, had come back to her. Not the same as she was. That 7-year-old girl was gone forever. But something new, someone stronger, a survivor who had endured the unimaginable and emerged from the darkness. The journey had been longer and harder than Sarah could have ever imagined that day in the mall. 8 years of searching, of hoping, of refusing to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. But standing there, watching her daughter graduate, seeing her smile, hearing her laugh again, Sarah knew she would do it all again, in a heartbeat. The story of Sarah and Lily Miller became a cautionary tale, but also one of hope. It highlighted the very real danger of child trafficking, the sophisticated networks that operate across international borders, preying on innocent children. It showed how quickly a normal day could turn into a nightmare, how a moment's distraction could lead to years of anguish. But it also showed the power of a mother's love, the importance of never giving up, and the possibility of miracles even in the darkest situations. Sarah's relentless search, her refusal to let the world forget her daughter, had ultimately led to Lily's rescue. It was chance that brought them to the same village in Tanzania. but it was determination that recognized the moment and acted on it. Today, Lily is in her 20s, studying social work with a focus on helping trafficking survivors. She still has difficult days, moments when the trauma resurfaces, but she has built a life of purpose from the ashes of her childhood. She speaks multiple languages, which she uses to communicate with survivors from different countries. She tells her story not for sympathy, but to shine a light on a crime that thrives in darkness and silence. Sarah continues her advocacy work, though now with her daughter by her side. They travel together sometimes, speaking at conferences, meeting with lawmakers, pushing for stronger protections for children. The purple backpack Lily loved as a child sits in their home, a reminder of what was lost, but also what was ultimately found. The mall where Lily disappeared has since been renovated with new security measures, including cameras that cover every angle and emergency buttons in all restrooms. The service corridor that allowed Lily's abductor to escape has been sealed. These changes came too late for Lily, but might prevent another child from suffering the same fate. The impact of Lily's case extended far beyond their family. It led to new legislation regarding mall security and missing children protocols. It strengthened cooperation between U.S. and international law enforcement agencies in trafficking cases. It raised awareness about the signs of trafficking and the importance of remaining vigilant. But for Sarah, the greatest impact was personal. She learned that hope, even when it seems foolish, even when the world tells you to let go, can sometimes lead to miracles. She learned that a mother's love truly knows no boundaries, that it can cross continents and overcome years of separation. She learned that even in the darkest moments, when all seems lost, there is always the possibility of light breaking through. The scar of those 8 years will never fully heal for either Sarah or Lily. There are too many lost moments, too much pain that can't be undone, but they have learned to live with the scars, to build something beautiful despite them. They have learned that family isn't just about blood or memory, but about the choice to love, to fight, to never give up on each other. Their story serves as both a warning and an inspiration. A warning about the very real dangers that exist in our world, the predators who target the innocent, the importance of vigilance and awareness, but also an inspiration about the power of love, determination, and hope, about the possibility of reunion even after years of separation, about the strength of the human spirit to endure and overcome even the most horrific circumstances. As Sarah often says when speaking at events, I spent 8 years looking for my daughter, but in truth, we spent 8 years looking for each other. She was surviving, holding on, even when she didn't remember who she was holding on for. And I was searching, never stopping, because somewhere deep in my heart, I knew she was out there, waiting to be found. The crime of child trafficking continues around the world, thousands of children disappearing every year into this dark trade. But stories like Lily's offer hope that these children can be found, can be saved, can be returned to families who never stopped looking for them. It requires vigilance from communities, cooperation from international authorities, and the kind of relentless determination that Sarah showed in her search for Lily. What did you think of Sarah's incredible journey to find her daughter? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Nest Stories for more unforgettable true stories. Thanks for watching.